Sometimes I wonder about my legacy, and if I was to die today, would anyone remember me? Would they play my songs, or would they hum the melody? Would they share my thoughts across the world for everyone to see? So on this episode of the Legacy series, instead of going over a memory, I kind of want to tell you guys about a lesson, a very important lesson I learned during the time where I worked with Sean Black. And it's about your tools, your equipment, and why it's important for you to have your own. So back then, a lot of independent artists, especially the ones that we met, that was on our level, they didn't have their own recording equipment. So what they had to do was book studio time. And the thing about booking studio time is that there's usually a minimum. So you have to do, in a lot of studios, you have to book at least 4 hours in order for them to even want to work with you. Because they want to make sure they get their money. But the thing about the creative process is you can't really put a timeline on how or when a song is going to get done. Yeah, sometimes you can complete a song in under an hour, but there are a lot of times where sometimes it takes me days to finish one song. So imagine having to book studio time by the hour and going into the studio trying to conceptualize, figure out the way that you want the music to sound and then record it. That can get expensive. Most independent artists are not working with a huge budget to be able to afford that. Now, because Sean Black was the type that already had some equipment, his mind was already there. And he was like, instead of us doing all of that, why don't we save up some money and buy some home recording equipment? So at the very least, we can get our ideas recorded so that we know what we're doing. So when we go and book studio time, we won't be spending a whole lot of money. So that's what we did. We went out, saved our money, and bought equipment. Now listen, this equipment was not top of the line. As a matter of fact, back then, that sort of equipment was seriously expensive. But we had just enough to be able to record and get our ideas down. And when we went into the studio, it didn't take us forever to get songs done because we already had a basic idea of what we were doing before we went in there. See, during that period of time, I actually picked up a lot of good habits. The idea of having my own equipment was important to me because of the fact that Sean Black made that such a big deal in our group. So that when I struck out on my own eventually, it was imperative to me to have my own equipment. And in the process of learning how to use that stuff, because truthfully, during the time when Sean Black was my producer, I really didn't have to worry about learning any equipment. All I had to worry about doing is writing the songs. Just write the songs and maybe put the occasional keyboard melody or bass line on a track that he put out. But this forced me, having my own equipment, forced me to learn some engineering. Now, it took me a while to really catch on to a lot of this stuff because back when I first started doing this, there was no YouTube. There was no way to just go and get a quick, fast tutorial on how to be an audio engineer. People went to school for that. But I eventually started picking up on how to do certain things. I eventually picked up on it. But my first album was not mixed correctly at all because I just didn't know completely what I was doing. There were certain things about recording that I hadn't grasped the concept of it at the time. But the funny thing is, that first album, The Rise of the Infidel, people are still buying that now. So just imagine if I let the fact that I didn't have all the necessary skills or all the necessary equipment stop me from putting out any music, stop me from actually getting things done. And that's another point in this video that I want to make. Do not wait until you have every piece of equipment your heart could wish for in order for you to get started, because that is a recipe for never getting started. A lot of new artists will see the equipment that I have when they look at my studio and they'll say, oh wow, see, the reason you can do all of this is because you have all of this. What they fail to realize is that I didn't start out with all of this. All of this equipment was built up slowly over time, and it was upgraded slowly over time. Not having everything that you would want is no excuse for not putting in the effort to put something out, to work on your craft. But see, that's only if you make your craft a priority. If it's just a hobby to you, then none of this advice that I'm giving right now really matters. But if it's something you're saying that you want to do with your life, if this is a long-term goal, you need to get started now, right now. Save your money up, buy some equipment, and the good news is equipment is not as expensive now as it was when I first started. And it doesn't take up anywhere as much space as it used to. That's my suggestion for any of you, no matter what type of creative thing you do. Go out there, get the equipment that you need, get your tools so that you're not relying on somebody else. Because the last thing you want to be is a slave to somebody else's schedule. But anyway, that's all for this episode. I appreciate you guys for listening. If you liked it, please give the video a like, comment any questions you may have. And if you haven't subscribed yet, by all means do so. I really appreciate it and it really helps. I'll talk to you guys later.